Ever feel like your whole day is just back-to-back meetings?
Oh, yeah, totally. I know that feeling.
It's like, when do we actually get any work done?
Right.
We're always prepping for the next meeting or just finishing one and jumping right into another.
Yeah. It's a lot.
But meetings are important though, right?
Oh, for sure.
We need them to collaborate.
Absolutely
learn.
brainstorm and all that.
But they can also be such a time suck.
Yeah. If they're not done well, they can really drain you.
So today we're diving into this super interesting guide.
Okay.
From the Southern Africa Litigation Centre.
Interesting.
And it's all about how to plan meetings and workshops that are actually effective.
I like it.
And it's specifically targeted towards community-based organizations or CBOs.
Makes sense. They probably have a lot of needs for meetings.
Yeah, they've got to coordinate with all sorts of people, like volunteers and community members and donors.
Right. A lot of stakeholders involved.
Exactly. So this guide really gets into the nitty-gritty of making sure those meetings are productive.
So what's their approach?
Well, the first thing that really stood out to me was how they addressed this idea of unnecessary meetings.
Okay. Yeah, we've all been to those.
Like you're sitting there and you're thinking, why am I even here?
Exactly.
So they actually pose this question right up front. Have you ever facilitated a meeting that felt unnecessary?
Wow. I love that they just come right out and say it.
Right. It really makes you stop and think before you even start planning anything.
Because sometimes, you get caught up in the routine.
Yeah.
You have your weekly staff meeting or your monthly board meeting, and you just do it without really considering if it's needed.
It's like it's on the calendar, so it must be important.
Exactly. So I think that initial question is so crucial. It's like a reality check.
It is, and it really sets the tone for the whole guide because their main focus is on being intentional.
Okay, so how do they actually recommend going about planning these meetings?
Well, they break it down into 8 key considerations.
8.
8.
Okay, we're going to need a checklist for this checklist.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually really helpful because it covers everything.
Like what?
So they talk about things like the agenda, obviously that's important.
Right.
But then they also get into things like the concept note,
Okay.
participant list materials, venue roles, and invitations.
Wow, that's really comprehensive.
It is. And they actually recommend using a checklist to make sure you're addressing all of these areas.
I love a good checklist.
Me too. It's like a safety net.
It is. It helps you stay organized and on track.
And it even suggests creating a template that you can adapt for different types of events.
Oh, that's smart.
Right, so you don't have to start
Yeah.
from scratch every time.
Saves so much time and energy.
And reduces stress.
Huge plus.
So going back to the checklist for a second, they put a lot of emphasis on the concept note.
What is that exactly?
It's basically a short document that outlines the purpose of the meeting or workshop.
Okay, so what are we trying to achieve here?
Exactly. And it also includes things like the background information, key questions you want to address, and the expected outcomes.
So it's kind of like a roadmap for the meeting.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
And it probably helps to keep everyone focused.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows what they're supposed to be working towards.
And I'm guessing this is especially important when you're working with multiple organizations.
Yes. And speaking of that, there was one suggestion in the guide that really intrigued me.
Okay, I'm all ears.
They recommend considering a memorandum of understanding.
An MOU.
Yes, an MOU. And it's basically a formal agreement between 2 or more organizations.
Interesting. What's the purpose of that?
Well, it's all about clarifying roles and responsibilities.
Okay, I can see how that would be helpful.
So let's say your organization is partnering with another CBO to put on a big community event.
Right.
The MOU would outline who's doing what, who's contributing financially, and what each organization hopes to gain from the collaboration.
So it's like a blueprint for a successful partnership.
Exactly, and it can help prevent misunderstandings or conflicts down the line.
Because everyone's on the same page from the beginning.
Right, and they know what's expected of them.
Smart. And is this legally binding?
It can be, but it depends on the specific context.
Okay, so it's more like a really detailed agreement.
Right, it sets the stage for a smooth and productive collaboration.
I like it. It sounds like a valuable tool.
Especially when you're dealing with complex projects or multiple stakeholders.
For sure.
And the guide also emphasizes the importance of regular check-in meetings throughout the planning process.
Oh, yeah. Communication is key.
It is, and it's a chance for everyone to share updates, address any concerns, and make sure the plan is still on track.
And it's also a good opportunity to build relationships.
Absolutely, because you're interacting with each other regularly and working towards a common goal.
Right. It fosters a sense of teamwork.
And speaking of teamwork, another important consideration is data privacy.
Oh, yeah. That's huge these days, especially with so many meetings happening online.
Exactly. So the guide talks about being transparent with participants about how their data will be collected, used, and stored.
Makes sense.
And if you're using online platforms, you need to choose reputable providers with strong security measures.
Right. You don't want to be putting anyone's information at risk.
Exactly. And for in-person events, you need to be mindful of how you're collecting and storing personal information.
Like sign-in sheets and things like that.
Yep. And, of course, always obtain consent before sharing any sensitive data.
Absolutely. That's crucial.
So, overall, I think this guide from the Southern Africa Litigation Centre is a fantastic resource.
Yeah, it sounds really practical and well thought out.
It is, and it really highlights the importance of purpose-driven planning.
Which is something we can all benefit from.
Right. So next time you're planning a meeting, take a moment to step back and ask yourself, is this meeting truly necessary?
Love it.
What are our goals? Who needs to be there?
And do we need an MOU?
Maybe. It depends on the situation.
Fair enough.
But the point is to be intentional and thoughtful in your approach.
Because meetings can be so powerful when they're done right.
They can, and they can actually be enjoyable.
Okay, now that's a challenge.
Uh-huh. I know. But it's possible.
Oh, yeah?
I think this guide gives us the tools to make it happen.
So to wrap things up, what's the one big question our listeners should be asking themselves as they plan their next meeting or workshop?
How can I apply these insights from the Southern Africa Litigation Centre to make my organization's meetings more effective and impactful?
Awesome question, and I think it's one that we should all be asking ourselves on a regular basis.
Agreed, and I highly encourage everyone to check out the full guide from the SALC.
Have a delicative.
It's full of practical tips and templates that you can start using today to transform your meetings from time sucks to productive and engaging experiences.
Sounds like a game changer.
It just might be.